Hi, and welcome back to Scholastically Natalie, where we talk about writing, reading, books, D&D, and occasionally games. Today we're continuing with Into the Land of the Unicorns because I realized we still haven't gotten to the Land of the Unicorns, even with Chapter 1. So I figured we're going to continue. Again, this is by Bruce Coville. I even looked this up last time and then forgot it. This copyright is from 1994. And I don't know why I'm trying to read you the ISBN number. I'll put it in the description. But this time we're gonna go with Chapter 2 after we look at the synopsis. So, 8, 9, 10. As each bell chime sounds, Kara climbs faster up the steep bell tower. 11. She must be on the roof when the next bell tolls. 12. With a deep breath and only half believing she will be safe, Kara jumps off the church roof and into Luster, land of the unicorns. In Luster, Kara meets many wonderful creatures, but the most magnificent of all is Lightfoot, a rebellious young unicorn. Together with her new unicorn friend, a hairy creature named the Dimblethumb, and the monkey-like Squidgum, Kara sets out to reach the Unicorn Queen before the mysterious man following them does, and to prevent the destruction of all unicorns. Dun dun dun! Okay, so we're starting with Chapter 2, which is A Leap of Faith. It starts on page 8. Kara turned, frantic with fear. Remember where we left off? She couldn't get the one door open, and the hunter had caught back up to them in the church. "This way," cried Grandmother Morris, grabbing her hand. They hurried through a small door at the side of the foyer. Inside, a set of narrow stairs spiraled up in a tight curve. Turning, Grandmother Morris shot the bolt in an old-fashioned latch. They started upward. They had gone about 10 steps when Kara heard someone slam into the door. The hunter. He slammed into it again, and she realized he was not just venting his anger. He was trying to break it down. She didn't need her grandmother's urging to move faster. Heart pounding, she climbed as fast as she could, spiraling up into the darkness, ignoring the prickling of the pins and needles that tingled along her leg. They came to a small landing. Kara heard a click as a dim light came on overhead. Her grandmother was leaning against the wall, one hand still on the light switch, the other pushing back loose strands of her long gray hair. A thick rope ran through the center of the room, entering through a hole in the ceiling, leaving through a hole in the floor. Another crash below. This time they could hear wood splintering. The door was not yet down, but it was clear that it was not going to last much longer. "Do you have the amulet?" asked her grandmother. Kara nodded. "Good. Hold fast to it and listen to me. I am going to ring the bell. It may bring help, but we can't be sure that it will come in time to save the amulet." The amulet, thought Kara. What about us? "Here is what you must do," continued her grandmother. "Climb to the top of the tower. The roof is flat with a low wall surrounding it. Count the tolling of the bell. On the 12th stroke, press the amulet tight to your chest and whisper, 'Luster, bring me home.' Then—" The old woman faltered, closed her eyes. Across her face moved a strange mixture of fear and longing, joy and loss. Kara shivered again, with a new kind of fear, unlike that brought on by the pursuer. "And then?" she prompted. Her grandmother flinched at the sound of another crash from below. Turning to Kara, she looked her full in the eyes. "Then," she whispered, "you must jump." Kara stared at her grandmother in disbelief. The question the old woman had asked in the sanctuary, "Do you think I'm crazy?" took on a new and terrifying meaning. Before she could think of what to say, they heard another crash from below. "That door won't last much longer," whispered Grandmother Morris. "He must not find the amulet. Climb, Kara, for your life, and for more than you can imagine. I have been there, my love, and it is wonderful. Do not be afraid. Hold the special. Count the chimes. Throw yourself to the wind, and this, I promise, you will see unicorns." But another crash from below. "Climb," urged her grandmother, flinging herself onto the rope and pulling it down with all the weight of her slender body. "Climb. The amulet must not fall into his hands." "Who is he?" asked Kara. The look of pain and sorrow that lanced through her grandmother's eyes was heart-stopping. The old woman shook her head as if driving away some unwelcome thought. "There's no time for talk," she replied, shouting to be heard above the tolling of the bell. Suddenly the rope surged up, pulling her with it, lifting her feet from the floor. "Remember," she cried, "you must jump on the 12th chime of the bell. Don't lose track. Now go, go. Kara turned and ran. Another chime, and then her grandmother's voice calling one last response. Kara, find the old one. Tell her the wanderer is weary. What Kara heard after that might have been a sob, but it was lost in the third toll of the bell, and she could not be certain. 3 strokes already. Kara ran faster, fearing she might not reach the top of the tower before the 12th chime. At the thought, her footsteps faltered. She was running as if she actually intended to jump. Did she? Could she? Hand on the rail, she spiraled up through the darkness, counting off the 4th and 5th chimes. And their pursuer, was he running up the stairs now too, running toward Grandmother Morris? What if he caught her before she could toll the bell the 12th time? What then? She was breathing in great gasps. The back of her legs felt as if they were on fire. She heard the 6th chime, or was it the 7th? No, it was the 6th. It had to be the 6th. She mustn't lose count. Her free hand, the one not on the rail, clutched the amulet hanging from her neck. It felt warm. She opened her fingers. To her astonishment, the amulet was starting to glow. The 7th chime. 7th? It had to be the 7th, not the 8th. The glow of the amulet grew brighter. She loosened her grip on it, and light flowed from between her fingers, bright enough to light her way as she scurried up the worn wooden stairs, spiraling toward the top of the tower. At the 8th toll of the bell, she was sure it was the 8th. She came to a ladder. As she stepped on the first rung, she heard a scuffle break out below her, cries of anger from her grandmother and from a deep male voice. She wanted to turn back to help, but her grandmother's urgent instructions had been to keep the amulet away from the man. Clambering up the ladder, she pushed with all her might at the trapdoor on the top. It wouldn't budge. For a terrified moment, she thought she would be trapped. But a sudden cry of pain from her grandmother filled her with such rage that without realizing what she was doing, she flung the door open. Footsteps from below. He was coming after her. And what of Grandmother Morris? What had he done to her? The bell tolled again. Kara smiled grimly. Whatever had happened, her grandmother still had the strength to work the rope. Kara couldn't let the old woman down now. She scrambled onto the roof of the tower, then stopped as a heavy male voice called from below. Wait! Kara Diana, wait! Terror froze her limbs. She had heard that voice before. Where? Where? A cold wind whipped through her. The snow had turned from flakes to icy chips that stung her cheeks. She stumbled to the edge of the roof. Her senses reeled as she saw the white-covered world spread out beneath her. The 10th chime sounded. Again, her grandmother's question, "Do you think I'm crazy?" caromed through her brain. The old woman had to be crazy, telling her to throw herself from the tower. Yet the amulet, casting its fierce glow through the storm, said otherwise, said there was magic afoot. The next chime, the 11th, sounded as she climbed onto the chest-high wall that circled the roof. Far below her, tiny dots were racing to get out of the storm. Were any of them racing to the church? Racing to help her and her grandmother? She braced herself, ready to jump, or at least try, at the 12th chime. Silence. Fear clutched her heart. Had she miscounted? Had she missed the moment? If she jumped now, would she simply fall to her death? Racked by confusion, she tottered on the wall, staring at the world so far below. Cold fear wound its way through her body. A sound behind her. The pursuer had made it to the top of the stairs. Then the bell tolled once more, the 12th and final time, and ahead of her a ball of light blossomed in the sky, its color the same spring green as the light flowing from between her fingers. Clutching the amulet, Kara whispered, "Luster, bring me home." "Wait," cried the man. Snow whirled around her, the wind whipped through her hair. Leaning forward, Kara threw herself from the tower. And that is chapter 2. It ends on page 14. It's not a very long chapter. We still haven't even gotten to the Land of the Unicorns, but the next chapter is titled Luster, so hopefully we finally get there. I definitely think the most interesting part about this is that so far every chapter when it ends has been a cliffhanger, and it's also in very small, readable doses if you are trying to read this with, a younger kid, obviously for which this is intended, which I think is smart and, good packaging and a good way to set it up. There is a certain artistry to, writing for younger kids, because you have to keep their attention, make them want to keep reading, but also keep them entertained, and depending on what age group you're writing for, that can be kind of hard. And I definitely think this book balances that well. And I do have a confession. I used to pronounce the word amulet as omelet, and I remember giving a book talk in like 4th grade about the amulet of Samarkand, and I called it the omelet the entire time, and I have a distinct memory of somebody going, "Do you mean amulet?" and me going, "No, it's pronounced omelet." Younger me was so confident. But no, I am enjoying going back through this. I have my one quote that I really liked from this chapter. I still think it's a really good, like, writing. It's a good immersion of you into, like, kind of, like, fearfulness and doubtness, and I love the pacing of the bells and the repetition of questioning the numbers that she's counting before finally, like, firmly deciding that she's accurate, and then that kind of, like, fear at the end that she's been wrong. I like how all that is balanced, the underlying tension of that, the man who somehow knows her last name, well, not, I think that's her middle name, and like that confusion of like why he knows that, who he is, what his connection is to her. I like all of that, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be underlying throughout this book. I swear I really only remember what happens with the grandmother at the end of this series. Like, I have so few memories of this, because like all of this series ends up being, it ends up being about it's about them like finding the unicorn queen and then stuff with the grandma. Sorry, I was speaking at the last chapter there to kind of be like, what happens again? Because I was like, I don't want to say things inaccurately. I'm sure I will eventually, because I am not an all-knowing being, and all I do is read books and talk about them. I clearly don't know that much. The one thing I do know is how to read when I'm really lucky and I'm wearing my glasses. But anyways, I hope this was kind of like a nice relaxing, kind of like chit-chatty chapter 2. It was only like 6 pages, and those pages are pretty widely spaced, and like the print is wide. So again, reading this is always like, oh, I don't have to squint. Oh. So I always feel like it's gonna be longer than it really is. But I have such good memories. This makes me so happy to just be like reading it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have been reading the chapters ahead of time, but not out loud, so this is my first time reading any of these chapters out loud. So if I do mispronounce things / miss a word or two, I apologize. I didn't do that this chapter, at least. Hopefully, unless somebody's gonna tell me that amulet really is pronounced omelet, then I will be very sad. All in all, I don't think I need to go on for much longer, so thank you for joining me for chapter 2. I have such vivid memories of my own version of writing this story. I'm gonna have to tell you guys about it, because this cracks me up to no end, just like reading this and being like, oh wait, I thought it was this from like my own weird version of this. But anyways, that is a story for another time. If you read this series, please leave a comment telling me what you remember of it, because I'm sure it's been forever since you've read it. If you're reading it now with like sibling, child, or just yourself, please let me know how you're feeling about it. Honestly, for some reason I thought this was the Bruce Coville A Glory of Unicorns, with a chapter from all these different unicorn books for some reason. That's also very good if you want to find more unicorn books. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave a like and maybe subscribe so that you can stick around for more popping up into your recommended feed. If not, that's fine. Leave me some interesting comments or critiques, or even just how you feel about the video overall. Thank you for watching. Scholastically Natalie is out.